You know how it is? Sometimes you feel this sudden rush of happiness, maybe a wave of disappointment, or just that tightness when you're worried.
Mm.
Well, these emotions, they aren't just random blips. They feel more like a really complex language.
Right, a language your brain is using.
Yeah, to communicate what's actually important to you, your needs, maybe your deeper beliefs, how you're seeing things around you.
That's a great way to put it. And while they feel so personal, almost mysterious sometimes, psychology and neuroscience have actually made some, well, incredible strides lately.
Really digging in.
Yeah, really digging into the mechanisms behind why we feel what we feel. So for this deep dive, we're going to explore exactly that, the psychology of emotions.
Looking at how biology, our thoughts, our social world,
Yeah.
how it all kind of weaves together.
Precisely. How it all weaves together to create these emotional experiences we have.
Okay. And our goal here really is to give everyone listening a kind of shortcut, a direct route. A direct route to understanding the core processes driving your emotions. We've gone through a lot of information.
And there a bit, yeah.
To pull out those key insights, the things that might give you those aha moments, but without, getting totally bogged down in dense academic stuff.
Right, keep it accessible but insightful.
Exactly. So we'll cover the brain stuff, how our interpretations matter, the social angle, and even how we can get better at managing it all.
For better well-being, ultimately.
Right.
Okay, so let's start with the foundation, maybe, the biological basis.
Bedrock.
Yeah, the bedrock. It's useful to remember our feelings aren't just floating around abstractly. They're really rooted in the physical brain, the structures, the chemistry.
Okay, let's unpack that. So biology of emotions, we mean specific brain areas, right? I think people have heard of the limbic system.
That's exactly it. The limbic system, it's really a network of regions. Key players are the amygdala, the hippocampus, the hypothalamus.
Right.
They play crucial roles. Think of the amygdala as like a rapid alert system.
For threats.
Especially for potential threats, yeah. It can kick off a fear response almost instantly, like before your conscious mind even fully catches up.
Wow, and the hippocampus. I know that's linked to memory.
It is. It functions like the brain's memory hub, but specifically linking emotional responses to past events. So it helps us learn from experience, what's safe, what's maybe not safe, what to approach.
What to avoid. That makes sense. That quick gut reaction being tied to past experience. But it's not just brain areas, is it? There are chemicals involved, too.
Oh, absolutely. Neurotransmitters are critical. Things like dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin.
Okay.
Dopamine, well, that's big in motivation. The reward pathways. It drives us toward things that feel good.
Right. Positive emotions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Serotonin is key for mood regulation generally. And oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone, is linked to social connection, attachment.
So these chemicals are constantly shifting, influencing our state.
Constantly active, yeah. Shaping our overall mood, how we react. And don't forget hormones like cortisol, the stress hormone.
Ah, cortisol.
Right. That plays a central role in our stress response.
Yeah.
And can definitely have longer-term effects on how we feel.
Okay, here's something from the sources that really jumped out at me. The idea that the brain areas that light up when we actually feel an emotion, they also show activity when we just imagine feeling it.
Yes. That is fascinating, isn't it?
It really is. It suggests our inner world, our thoughts, our memories, they have this powerful direct line to our physical emotional state.
It does. It sort of blurs the line,
Right.
between what's happening outside and what's happening inside our heads.
Like the brain doesn't always make a huge distinction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It underscores the power of thought. It might explain why, say, dwelling on something negative from the past can actually make you feel bad now.
Yeah, it brings it all back.
Right. Right. When we look at brain scans like fMRI or PT scans, the key thing is emotion isn't just in one spot.
Not one single emotion center.
No, it's distributed, dynamic, lots of areas working together, which kind of explains why our responses can be so complex, sometimes immediate gut reactions, other times more, thought out, nuanced feelings.
Okay. So biology gives us the basic wiring, the hardware maybe.
Good analogy, yeah.
But then there's how we actually interpret things. That's where a cognitive appraisal fits in.
That's the perfect transition. Biology provides the initial spark, maybe, but cognitive appraisal is like the software running on that hardware.
Interpreting the data.
Exactly. It's our brain's super fast evaluation of what an event means to us. Is it good, bad, relevant, Irrelevant. And this is based on our beliefs, our expectations, our past.
Our personal history.
Precisely. And that appraisal is what shapes the feel, labels it positive or negative, strong or weak.
So this explains why the exact same thing can happen. And two people can have totally different emotional reactions because their brains are appraising it differently.
You've got it. Think about public speaking. For one person, the appraisal might be, this is a threat, people will judge me, leading to anxiety.
Right. Palms sweating, heart racing.
Totally. But another person might appraise it as, this is a chance to share my ideas, an exciting challenge. And they feel excitement, maybe anticipation.
Same situation, different appraisal, different feeling.
Exactly. It's not the event itself, it's the meaning we attach through that rapid appraisal.
And this appraisal, it's not always logical, is it? Like, our brains take shortcuts. That's where cognitive biases come in.
That's a really important layer.
Yeah.
Our appraisals can definitely be skewed by these mental shortcuts.
Like seeing the world in things.
That's a classic one, the negativity bias.
Yeah.
Our tendency to weigh negative information more heavily than positive.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
So, if you have that bias, you might look at an ambiguous situation, like maybe a coworker's neutral expression, and appraise it as negative, maybe critical, even if there's no real evidence. And that leads to feeling anxious or maybe defensive.
And that could become a cycle, right? Expecting bad things, interpreting things negatively, feeling bad, which reinforces the expectation.
Exactly. It can be a self-reinforcing loop. Our expectations shape interpretations, which fuel the emotions, which confirm the beliefs.
Wow, okay. That makes so much sense. You really do see that how one person hears news and jumps to the problems, another sees the potential. It's those mental filters.
It is. And understanding this is key because it shows emotions aren't just passive things that wash over us.
There's an active thinking part.
Yes, an active cognitive component. Becoming aware of our own appraisal habits is, well, it's a big step towards understanding and maybe even influencing our feelings.
Okay. So we have biology, we have cognition, but we don't feel things in a bubble, right? What about the social side?
Right. Let's broaden the lens now. Our emotions are profoundly shaped by our social world, our culture.
Because what's okay to show emotionally in one place might be totally frowned upon somewhere else.
Absolutely. Cultural norms act like unspoken rules about feelings.
Emotional display rules.
Display rules, yes, but also feeling rules sometimes. What you're supposed to feel. For instance, some cultures encourage really open displays of grief.
Loud crying, wailing.
Right. While others might value emotional restraint, keeping a stiff upper lip, so to speak. And these norms shape not just how we act, but potentially how we even experience the emotion inside.
And just in everyday interactions, our emotions are like signals, aren't they? Even without words.
Huge signals.
Yeah.
Emotions are a powerful form of nonverbal communication.
A smile, a frown.
Exactly. They tell others how we're doing, what we need, how we're reacting. They help us navigate social landscapes, build bonds.
Or create distance.
Or create distance, true. If you see someone looking sad, you might feel empathy, offer help. If someone's beaming, it might lift your mood, too. It's this constant back and forth shaping our relationships.
And what about bigger groups? Like when a whole community feels something together?
Yeah, that's fascinating, too. Shared group dynamics, common beliefs, shared values can lead to collective emotional experiences.
Like national pride after a big win, or communal grief after a tragedy.
Precisely those kinds of things. Experiencing strong emotions together can really strengthen that sense of group identity, that feeling of us. It reinforces social cohesion.
That really brings in the empathy angle, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, understanding these cultural and social influences, it helps you realize why someone might react differently than you expect.
Ah, yes. Good point.
It makes you maybe more compassionate, less judgmental, because their emotional rules or experiences might just be different based on their background.
Absolutely. It reminds us there isn't one single right way to feel or express emotion. It's complex.
So complex is definitely the word. We've got biology, thinking patterns, social context.
It's a lot woven together.
Which brings us to, well, what can we do about it? How do we manage all this? That's emotion regulation, right?
Exactly. Now we move to the practical side. Understanding why is the first step, but then how do we navigate these feelings skillfully for, better well-being?
Okay, so how do we get some agency here? Not just feel swept away. The sources mention things like mindfulness.
Yes, mindfulness and awareness practices are really valuable tools. What they do, essentially, is help create a bit of space.
Space between the trigger and the reaction.
Exactly, that crucial pause.
Mm.
Instead of an automatic knee-jerk emotional response, mindfulness involves observing what's happening, the thoughts, the feelings, the body sensations, without judgment.
Just noticing.
Just noticing. And that noticing creates the opportunity to choose a more thoughtful response rather than just being carried off by the emotion's intensity.
Okay, and what about cognitive reappraisal? That sounds like actively changing your thoughts.
That's precisely it. It's about consciously reframing how you're interpreting a situation.
Okay, give me an example.
Remember the setback example. Instead of appraising it as, this is a disaster, I failed.
Leading to feeling defeated, maybe hopeless.
Right. Reappraisal would be consciously shifting that interpretation to something like, okay, this didn't go as planned, but what can I learn from it? This is a chance to grow.
Ah, changing the story you tell yourself about it.
Exactly. You're rewriting the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And that deliberate shift in thinking can significantly change the emotional outcome, maybe turning despair into determination or frustration into curiosity.
That sounds powerful. Hard, maybe, but powerful.
It takes practice, definitely.
And the sources also stressed social support, talking to people.
Absolutely vital. Our connections, friends, family, maybe a therapist, they offer external perspectives.
Getting outside your own head.
Exactly. When you're stuck in a strong emotion, your view can get really narrow, kind of distorted. Talking it through with someone trusted can provide that different angle, help you reality check your appraisal, and just feel supported, which itself helps regulate the emotion.
So these are all actual techniques, things you can do.
Right. Actionable strategies.
It makes you feel less like you're just, at the mercy of your feelings and more like you can actually take an active role.
And that feeling of agency, that's empowerment right there. Realizing you can influence how you respond.
Okay, so if we tie all this understanding back to mental health, how does knowing about emotion psychology actually help?
Well, several ways. First off, just recognizing that emotions come from this complex mix of biology, thoughts, and social factors. It can really reduce self-blame.
So if you're having a hard time, it's not just a personal failing.
Exactly. It helps you see it as perhaps a natural response within this intricate system, rather than thinking, what's wrong with me?
That seems really important.
It is. And that understanding can also make people more open to seeking help, like therapy, because they see there are evidence-based ways to work with these underlying processes. It demystifies it a bit.
Makes sense. Less stigma, maybe. More of a practical problem-solving approach.
Precisely. And ultimately, this knowledge empowers individuals. When you understand the thought-feeling link, you can start challenging unhelpful thoughts.
Like with cognitive reappraisal.
Yes. When you grasp the role of biology, maybe you focus on lifestyle factors that support brain health. When you see the importance of social connection.
You prioritize relationships.
Exactly. It gives you a kind of roadmap for intentionally cultivating more positive emotional states and managing the difficult ones more effectively. It builds resilience.
Okay. So, wrapping this up, the big picture is that emotions are incredibly intricate.
Definitely not simple.
Shaped by our biology, sure, but also hugely by how we interpret things and by the world and the people around us.
Mm-hmm.
And crucially, they aren't these fixed things that just happen to us. We can understand them, we can navigate them.
And even influence them.
Right, influence them.
And that was really our aim with this deep dive, to give you that clearer pathway, that shortcut to understanding this really vital part of being human, and showing that these processes aren't set in stone.
So here's something to think about then. Considering this, powerful interplay, your biology, your thoughts, your social connections, what possibilities actually open up for you? What happens when you start to see your emotions less as something that just washes over you and more as, well, a dynamic process?
Something you can engage with.
Yeah, something you can learn to navigate, maybe even shape towards a life that feels, I don't know, richer, more authentic.
That's a great question to leave people with.
Definitely something to mull over. And maybe even, look into some of those regulation techniques we talked about a bit more.